Government offices open in Jammu Kashmir as 12 out of 22 districts are functioning normally. Some restrictions in place in 5 districts. The Chief Secretary says the government focus is on ensuring that the terrorists get no opportunity to disturb the law and order in the state. Restrictions to be eased in a phased manner in Jammu and Kashmir, the schools to reopen gradually from Monday. The telecom connectivity to be restored in a phased manner. The Chief Secretary says that preventive steps saved lives in the face of cross-border terror threats. The Chief Justice of India pulls up the petitioner against the abrogation of Article 370 for not filing the relevant documents. The 3-judge bench adjourns the hearing without passing the order on the petition. Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa meets Prime Minister Modi regarding the flood situation in the state. The estimates total loss due to floods at more than 40,000 crore rupees. Prime Minister Modi to leave for a 2-day visit to Bhutan. He will hold bilateral talks with the Bhutanese Prime Minister to also launch the RuPay and Beam application in Bhutan. And in sports news, the Team India coach to be announced in a short while from now. The selection panel headed by Kapil Dev to select the head coach. Ravi Shastri, Tom Moody, Phil Simons and Mike Hesson are the prime contenders. Hello and good evening. You're watching Doordarshan News with me, Nancy Kohli. Our top story, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Secretary has said that 12 districts in Jammu and Kashmir are functioning normally while there is limited restrictions only in 5 districts. Addressing a press conference in Srinagar today, the Chief Secretary said that there has been no loss of life or any major injury since the restrictions were imposed on the 5th of August.
Some restrictions were required on 14th and 15th of August in view of Independence Day celebrations yesterday, for which the terror threat perception was certainly greater, particularly in the light of the statements from across the border, which most of you have seen. As things stand today, 12 of the 22 districts are functioning normally, with some limited restrictions in 5 of these. The measures put in place have ensured that there has been not a single loss of life. I repeat, there has not been a single loss of life or serious injuries to anyone during the course of maintaining peace and order. We have prevented any loss of human life despite concerted efforts by terrorist organizations, radical groups, and continuing efforts by Pakistan to destabilize the situation.
And the Chief Secretary also said that the offices of Jammu and Kashmir government are functioning normally in the valley while the schools will reopen next week in a phased manner.
Keeping in view the evolving situation, as well as the cooperation of the people in maintaining peace, we are now taking measures to ease the restrictions in a gradual, calibrated manner. After today's Friday prayers, which the immediate reports have gone off quite peacefully right through the state, there would be an easing of restrictions in the next few days in an orderly way. Schools will be opened after the weekend, area-wise, so that children's studies do not suffer. As movement restrictions are removed, area by area, movement of public transport will be allowed in these areas. Government offices have been made fully functional from today, and the attendance in many offices is quite high.
The Chief Secretary also said that most phone lines in Kashmir will be restored over the weekend.
You will see a gradual restoration from tonight and tomorrow onwards. You will find a lot of Srinagar functioning tomorrow morning. BSNL takes a couple of hours to get back to action. Exchange by exchange, they will be switching it on. Over the weekend, you will have most of these lines functional.
The Indian Army has refuted the claim of the Pakistani Army that 5 Indian soldiers have been martyred in the cross-border firing across the LOC. The Army has said that the ceasefire violation by Pakistan was carried out by the Pakistani forces in Naugam and the Krishna Ghati sector that was responded to appropriately and befittingly. But none of our own soldiers have either got injured or martyred. Earlier yesterday, the Pakistani Army admitted that 3 of its soldiers were killed in the ceasefire violations in Poonch. The Indian Army had warned last week that the Pakistani Army Twitter handles are trying to spread misinformation and falsehoods in the view of Article 370 being abrogated in Jammu and Kashmir. The Supreme Court has expressed anguish over defective petitions challenging the scrapping of provisions of the Article 370 of the Constitution. A bench headed by the Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi said that the petition by Advocate M.L. Sharma challenging the scrapping of Article 370 has no meaning. The judges said that the petitioner is not praying for setting aside the presidential order. It is not clear what the prayer is, and also added that there were 5 other petitions in the registry that are defective. The Chief Justice said that he spent 30 minutes reading the petition on Article 370, but he could not make any sense of those petitions. The Apex Court had asked lawyers to cure defects in their 6 petitions on Article 370 and adjourned the hearing. The Supreme Court also said that it will wait for some time before passing any direction on the plea seeking the removal of restrictions on the media in Jammu and Kashmir after the centre said that the curbs are being lifted gradually. Now, during the hearing, the centre told the Apex Court that the situation is improving in Jammu and Kashmir and that the curbs are being lifted gradually. The Solicitor General Tushar Mehta said that the government is reviewing the situation on a day-to-day basis. Union Home Minister Amit Shah has asserted that scrapping the special status of Jammu and Kashmir is a big milestone for the unity and the integrity of the country and will ensure development of the state. He also said that Prime Minister Modi's announcement on Independence Day on creating the post of the Chief of the Defence Staff will strengthen the country's defence manifold. Addressing a public rally in Jind in Haryana ahead of the elections in the state, the BJP National President said that the revocation of the provisions of the Article 370 of the Constitution would help develop Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh and make the region free of the menace of terror. Also saying that the Modi government scrapped the special status of Jammu and Kashmir in 75 days of coming to power for the second time. He slammed the previous Congress-led governments for not doing it in their 72 years of rule because of vote bank greed. He also praised Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal for eradicating corruption and bringing transparency in recruitment in the government jobs in the state. Remember, the elections in Haryana are due in 2 months.
सबसे बड़ा काम जो सरदार पटेल का स्वप्न था, ये पूरा देश एक अखंड भारत बने, एक रस भारत बने, और इसमें धारा 370 विघ्न था। धारा 370 देश के मुकुटमणि कश्मीर को कहीं न कहीं भारत के साथ जुड़ते हुए रोकने का एहसास। हम तो उस वक्त भी मानते थे कि कश्मीर भारत का अभिन्न अंग है, तो मां भारती का मुकुटमणि, मगर धारा 370 कहीं न कहीं एक संदेश देकर जाती थी, अभी भी कुछ अधूरा है। और 70 साल तक, 72 साल तक कांग्रेस की सरकारें जो वोट बैंक की लालच में नहीं कर पाई, मोदी जी ने 75 दिन के अंदर पूरा कर धारा 370 को समाप्त कर दिया। 370 और 35 से हटना भारत की एकता और अखंडता के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा मील का पत्थर है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark tomorrow on a 2-day visit to Bhutan, during which the 2 strategic allies will explore ways to further strengthen and diversify their bilateral relationship. Prime Minister Modi will also launch RuPay and the BHIM application during his visit for the benefit of the Indian tourists. The Prime Minister will also interact with the students of the Royal University of Bhutan. Our correspondent had an exclusive interview with the Indian Ambassador to Bhutan, Ruchira Kamboj.
After assuming office for the second time, this would be the first visit of PM Modi to Bhutan. And to speak more on that, we have the Indian Ambassador to Bhutan, Ms. Kamboj. Let's talk to her and find out. Ma'am, welcome to DD News. In view of the neighborhood first policy, how crucial is this meet of the Prime Minister and this visit of the PM?
Well, as you know, Bhutan is a very special partner of India. There is no big brother role that we play here. Everything that we do in Bhutan is per the wishes and aspirations of the people of Bhutan and as per their wishes and priorities. This cooperation has extended in diverse sectors. Of course, there are regular political visits. There is economic cooperation. There is hydropower cooperation that you know. And today the relationship is expanding into new frontiers such as space science and technology, STEM education, also in the financial sector. As you know that we are looking into the launching of the RuPay card during the Prime Minister's visit, and also we will be working towards the launch of the BHIM app at a later stage here in Bhutan.
Coming to the financial sector, RuPay and BHIM app would play a crucial role in the digital economy of Bhutan, because we have a lot of people from India traveling to Bhutan as well.
So I think that will greatly benefit the Indian tourists, because as you know we are moving from a cash to a card economy, and actually from a card to a cardless economy. So that will obviate the need for the Indian tourists to carry cash, and I think will greatly facilitate convenience. As far as the second phase is concerned of the RuPay card, which I think we should see next year, the banks of Bhutan will issue RuPay cards which will facilitate the visit of Bhutanese tourists to India, as also the many Bhutanese students who study in India. So I think this is a very important step towards cross-border interoperability.
India has already been playing a crucial role in the road development of this country. Now we have a direct access from India to Thimphu, and also the hydroelectric projects. So tell us more about that.
India has been playing a large role, not since today, but since the very beginning. So as you know, we have Project Dantak here in Bhutan, and they have played a crucial role in the socio-economic development of the country, as you say. Currently they are maintaining about 630 kilometers of road, and this is a brand that is well known and well liked across Bhutan. As far as hydroelectric power cooperation is concerned, I think there too India has played a big role. In fact, during the Prime Minister's visit, we will be launching a stamp marking 50 years of hydropower cooperation between India and Bhutan, beginning from Chukka, Tala, Kurichu, and now Mangdechu, and going forward, looking forward to the Sankosh hydroelectric power project.
And when we talk about the two countries, Prime Minister has been talking about the younger generation, and this time he would also be interacting with the students of Royal Bhutan University. So how interesting would that be?
Well, I think that is, if I may say so, one of the high points of the visit. There is great excitement and enthusiasm in Bhutan, and the Royal University, which is the only university of Bhutan, has, I think, put together and crafted this program with a lot of love and care, and it is matter of great pride that Prime Minister will be addressing the youth, because when you talk of India-Bhutan relations, you must also look at the future, and the youth are the future of the India-Bhutan relationship. So I think this address is much anticipated and one of the highlights of the program.
So there you heard the ambassador. She says that it is going to be a very crucial and important meeting between the two prime ministers and also between the two countries, and the audience with the king would be playing the key role in this visit of the Indian Prime Minister.
Moving on now, the second meeting of the high-powered committee of the chief ministers for transformation of the Indian agriculture is being held in Mumbai. That's headed by the Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. The chief ministers of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh also attended the meeting, while the Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal attended the meeting through video conference. Now, one of the main suggestions is the denotification of fruits and vegetables and get it be purchased from producer directly by the wholesaler, producers and the exporters of all the APMC markets. Private markets, direct market license should be linked. The Union Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar and the Special Secretary Niti Aayog Yaduvendra Mathur also attended that meeting.
किस प्रकार के सुधार केंद्र सरकार करने का विचार कर रही है ताकि मार्केट इंटेलिजेंस बेस्ड एक्सपोर्ट पॉलिसी हमारी तैयार हो पाए, और विशेष रूप से एक्सपोर्ट फैसिलिटेशन, जिसमें अगर हम लोग देखें तो कई देशों में उनके अपने अलग अलग नॉर्म्स है, या ऑर्गेनिक आज दुनिया में बड़े पैमाने पर एक्सपोर्ट होता है, तो उसके स्टैंडर्ड्स क्या है, वो स्टैंडर्ड्स हम लोग तैयार कर पाए, और उन स्टैंडर्ड्स के आधार पर हम लोग एक्सपोर्ट को किस प्रकार से बूस्ट कर पाए, इसका विचार इसमें हुआ है। और इसके लिए जो एक एक्सपोर्ट ओरिएंटेड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हमको तैयार करना है, उसका भी काफी विचार इसमें हुआ है.
On the first death anniversary of former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Shraddhanjali and Sarvadhan Prarthana Sabha was held in his memory at the Sadaiv Atal Memorial in New Delhi. President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tributes to Atalji. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah, the BJP Working President JP Nadda and other leaders of the party also paid tribute to the former Prime Minister. Late Atal Bihari Vajpayee's daughter Namita Kaul Bhattacharya and granddaughter Niharika paid their tributes at Sadaiv Atal. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the 10th Prime Minister of India and was the Member of Parliament for 4 decades. He was one of the main founders of the Jan Sangh. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was also the first Prime Minister of the NDA government to complete 5 years of the non-Congress Prime Minister's office without any obstacle. In response to Prime Minister Modi's call to make India free of the single-use plastics, a massive public campaign will be launched engaging all the stakeholders. The Minister for Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Prakash Javadekar, will review all the initiatives and the campaigns in this regard and chalk out a concrete plan to realize the target. The Minister was addressing a gathering to celebrate the 73rd Independence Day in Sao Paulo in Brazil. An update now on the flood situation that has subsided in parts of Kerala as no red or orange alert for any district remains in force. People are returning to their houses as situation has normalized, and with the abatement of rain, some sun also brought respite to the flood-hit Kerala since Thursday as the water receded in many low-lying areas and the state began to return to normalcy, even as the toll in the second spell of the southwest monsoon rose to 104, with 36 still missing. But there was no red alert warning in any of the 14 districts of the southern state as the intensity of the rains decreased. The monsoon trough though remains active with a well-marked low-pressure area lying embedded in it over the northeast Rajasthan and adjoining areas of northwest Madhya Pradesh and also the southwest Uttar Pradesh. The well-marked low-pressure area is very likely to move gradually along the monsoon trough and weaken after 48 hours. Widespread rainfall with isolated heavy to very heavy, extremely heavy falls are also very likely over Rajasthan during the next 48 hours. A constructive interaction between the monsoon low and an approaching western disturbance is likely to cause fairly widespread rainfall with isolated heavy to very heavy falls over the western Himalayan region, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh and Delhi and West Uttar Pradesh mainly during 17th and 18th August. Enhanced rainfall activity with isolated heavy to very heavy rainfall likely over the sub-Himalayan West Bengal and Sikkim and Assam and Meghalaya during the next 2 to 3 days. Moving on now, the Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa today met Prime Minister Modi in the national capital. The Chief Secretary T.M. Vijay Union Minister Suresh Angadi and Prahlad Joshi were also present in that meeting. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today visited the campus of West Bengal's Vishwa Bharati University in Shantiniketan to inaugurate the renovated Shamali building, a mud house that was often used by Rabindranath Tagore as his summer retreat. He also called on the government and the civil society organizations to get together and take up the task of preserving a tangible and intangible cultural heritage. The Vice President also emphasized that both the government and the civil society groups must also work to generate awareness among the larger public about the need to preserve the architectural marvels of the country. Moving on now, in fresh trouble for Samajwadi Party leader, the district administration has demolished the walls of a resort belonging to Abdullah Azam Khan, the son of Samajwadi Party MP Azam Khan, over illegal construction. The Enforcement Directorate had initiated a money laundering probe following allegations that a university run by him in Uttar Pradesh's Rampur has been built over a land taken in the violation of the enemy property law. They are also accused in several land grabbing cases. And in some international news now, the Hong Kong police has affirmed that 748 people have been arrested since large-scale anti-extradition bill protests erupted on the 9th of June, with 115 prosecuted. The police officials also added that 15 police officers had sustained varying degrees of eye injuries due to protesters' use of handled laser light. The police tactics are toughening after 10 weeks of increasingly violent confrontations between the police and protesters that plunged Hong Kong into turmoil. Now, in a new major development in the contentious trade war between the US and China, China has vowed to counter the latest tariffs imposed by the US on $300 billion of the Chinese good. Now, both the powers are set to hold trade negotiation meetings in Washington in September. The US President Donald Trump has expressed that the trade war between the both would last soon. He also said that China wants to make a trade deal. In a decision that came as a shock, North Korea said it will never sit down with its southern counterpart for talks ever again. The decision came out despite recurrent warnings by North Korea to South Korea to stop its joint military drills with the US. The Korean neighbors were on amicable terms till tensions due to military drills in the US arose. North Korea's official news agency said in a statement about the decision taken by its government. And North Korea had also said that it will never sit down with South Korea for talks ever again, rejecting a vow by the South Korean President Moon Jae-in to pursue dialogue with Pyongyang made the previous day as he pledged to bring in unification by 2045. The North has protested the joint military drills conducted by South Korea and the US that was kicked off last week, calling them a rehearsal for war, and has also fired several short-range missiles in recent weeks. And the statement further said, as it will be clear, we have nothing more to talk about with the South Korean authorities and we have no desire to sit down with them ever again. Moving on now, the Argentines protest after 25% of the peso's value was wiped out in lieu of ongoing economic crisis and a shock election result. Carrying signs of no to the IMF and we want a raise, the Argentines marched through the downtown streets of the capital to draw attention to the dire conditions that many Argentines are currently facing. The Argentina President Mauricio Macri promised to raise the minimum wage, temporarily freeze gasoline prices, and also increase the income tax bracket floor by 20%. And moving on now to sports news, Nick Kyrgios' feud with umpire Fergus Murphy boiled over during an explosive outing at the Cincinnati Masters that left the Australian player 13,766 points lighter in the pocket and facing a possible suspension from the ATP.
Nick Kyrgios is once again in hot water after walking off the court to smash 2 rackets and calling an umpire expletives. After winning the opening set in his 3-set defeat by Russia's Karen Khachanov in Cincinnati, Kyrgios was hit with a time violation in the second set for taking too long between serves. Shortly after his outburst, Kyrgios took a bathroom break, which umpire Murphy, citing not enough time remaining at the changeover, refused him permission to take. Having left the court with 2 rackets, cameras caught the world number 27, breaking them before making his way back to the court. Kyrgios appears likely to be seeded for the US Open starting on August 26. This is not the first time Kyrgios has expressed his displeasure at umpire Murphy's decision-making. 2 weeks ago at the Washington Open, the Australian clashed with Murphy before going on to win the tournament. Sports Desk, DD News.
And big news from sports. Well, the 3-member Cricket Advisory Committee comprising Kapil Dev, Anshuman Gaikwad and Shanta Rangaswamy will announce the head coach this evening when it addresses the media. The Kapil Dev-led committee began the interview process for the selection of India's head coach at the BCCI headquarters. A total of 6 shortlisted candidates, and those are Ravi Shastri, Tom Moody, Phil Simons, Mike Hesson, Lalchand Rajput and Robin Singh were interviewed throughout the day. The incumbent head coach Ravi Shastri and Simons will join the interview via Skype from the West Indies, but the other three candidates, that's Hassan, Rajput and Singh, were present in person to give their presentations. In some other news now, the space tourism moved a step closer to reality as Virgin Galactic unveiled its new mission control at a spaceport. The company is offering customers a few minutes in space. It will also allow them to float in the spacecraft's cabin and see the curvature of the Earth through huge windows. The spaceship is a cross between a plane and a rocket. It is released at high altitude by a carrier airplane and then ignites its own engine, traveling at 3 times the speed of sound. And in some more interesting news, around 1,500 twins and triplets of all the ages gathered in Brittany in France to celebrate the Twin Festival in the northwestern side of the country. The festival that hosts twins from France and other countries is a major hit and has been in trend since 1994. Famous for its summer gathering, the festival allows twins to meet other twins, and this year celebrates its 25th year of the festival. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the news. Thanks for being with us.